you look at the dragons, what do you see?
I suppose I see us.
The idea that we control the dragons is an illusion.
So House of the Dragon is a new show on HBO Max. It's the prequel to the Game of Thrones, and it's basically a civil war of family. The Targaryen family, who are the rulers over their kingdom, which means you're gonna see a lot of people positioning themselves for power within this familial civil war. And my very first impression of the show, just visually, is amazing. It starts off with a girl riding a dragon. They kind of show you the kingdom that this show is gonna live within, and it's beautiful. And everything from the costumes to the set design are really top notch. I don't think you could have better quality than this in a TV show. Then you have the CGI dragons that are probably the best dragons I think I've ever seen. And it feels to me like the production team really took their time in casting, because all of these actors are very good actors, but also they're the right people for the characters. And speaking of characters, I think the writers of this show are really good at writing multifaceted characters. There's no one-dimensional people here, no lawfully good or chaotically evil characters. Whereas you get like Superman's always good and Lex Luthor's always evil. That doesn't necessarily happen in this show. Take Damon. He's probably my favorite character in the show right now, but they're setting him up to be something of a villain. And he is a villain. He's a scumbag. He's out banging hookers. He's more ruthless than he needs to be. He makes a lot of decisions that deliberately piss off his family and the council of this kingdom. But then you see him in these scenes with his brother or his niece, and you realize that he has real love for his family. Alright, so since we looked at a villain, let's look at a hero, King Viserys. You see him and he loves his wife. He loves his daughter. He cares about his people and his kingdom. But at one point, he's faced with an impossible decision. He has to decide who's gonna live and who's gonna die. I'm not gonna tell you the exact situation because I don't want to spoil anything, but the choice he made me so angry. It makes me not like him as a man, but I also understand how tough a position that is to be in and that choice to make. I'm rambling, but look, the point here is there are layers to all of these characters. A couple things I think that are worth mentioning here is there's gonna be sex in this show. Apparently Game of Thrones had a lot of sex scenes in it. This show is kind of headed towards that direction, and you could expect some sex position. That's where they try to give you exposition, and for the people who aren't into that, they're gonna throw you some boobs or some nudity or whatever, so be ready for that. It's not like pornographic sex scenes. They're kind of dumb. I think all sex scenes in movies and TV shows are pretty funny because they're not realistic at all, but yeah, you just gotta suffer through them, and for those of you thirsting for it, it's there for you. But also, this show is set in medieval times, so be ready for some violence and some gore. You're gonna see some hands get chopped off. You're gonna see some heads get chopped off, and much worse. Then there's this scene where they're having like a jousting tournament, and I've always known what jousting is, and when you think about it in your head, it's two men riding a horse full speed with sticks right into each other. So it sounds pretty violent, but I've never seen it portrayed in a violent way per se. Like that Heath Ledger movie, I can't think of the name of it right now, but there's hard hits in that movie, but you don't really feel it. In this show, when these dudes hit each other when they're jousting, you feel it. Okay, so look, I'm not into fantasy shows whatsoever. Wizards, dragons, it's just never really been interesting to me. I didn't even like Lord of the Rings, and maybe that just wasn't the time of my life that I was ready for that kind of story, but it was three hobbits walking through the grass for like 12 hours just to have Gandalf fly you to the end objective in 10 minutes in the first place. At the very end of the movie, it really pissed me off. And it kind of put me off of a lot of fantasy movies and shows. So I never watched Game of Thrones. And then when everybody said it was so good, it just felt too big to really get into, you know what I mean? But now this show is coming out, and I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to give this a try, and maybe I'm at the right point in my life now that I can enjoy this kind of thing. But the hallmark of a good show is that it makes you feel. And this show makes makes you feel all the feelings. From the beginning, when the girl's riding the dragon through the clouds over the city, you get that euphoric sense of adventure. There's gonna be a point in the show where you're very uncomfortable. Some of these characters make you feel really icky for what could possibly happen, and the tension is hard to handle. There's gonna be a time in this episode that breaks your heart and you can't believe what you're watching. There's gonna be people who piss you off, but there's also gonna be hope. So for me, House of the Dragon gets a 10 out of 10. The best first episode of any show I've ever watched. I always have the rule of 3. Watch 3 episodes, you'll know if you like it. This is the first time in my life I have ever watched 1 episode of a show and said, yes, I want more of this. So that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.